climate change, 5 things we've learned from COP24. Delegates to the UN Climate Conference in Poland have reached agreement on how to implement the 2015 Paris Climate Accord, which comes into force in 2020. What are the key points to come out of the meeting? 1. The rules are key to the game. However dull it may be, the operational rules for the 2015 Paris Climate Agreement will govern the way the world tackles climate change for decades to come. The key thing was not to unravel the carefully negotiated Paris Agreement by having one set of rules for the rich countries and another one for the poor. EU Climate Commissioner Miguel Arias Canet explained how the new rules would work. We have a system of transparency, we have a system of reporting, we have rules to measure our emissions, we have a system to measure the impacts of our policies compared to what science recommends. To keep everyone in check, the rules will also contain a compliance mechanism, which means that countries that don't submit their reports on time will face an inquiry. The new regulations are flexible for developing countries, meaning they can sign up to the rules at a later date. 2. Science is worth fighting for. One of the biggest rows at this meeting was over a key scientific report from the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change, IPCC, a group of countries including Saudi Arabia, US, Kuwait and Russia refused to welcome the IPCC study. They merely wanted to note the contents. Efforts to find a compromise ended in failure. However, that was not the end of the matter. The vast majority of countries felt that acknowledging the science was critical at this conference. Their efforts did finally ensure that the IPCC was recognized, but many felt it was a token effort. That science is unsettling and it doesn't connect it to the need to do more, said Camilla Born from the environmental think tank E3G. The deal looks at it in isolation, it's an elegant compromise but it's not really enough. 3. Multilateralism is not dead. Many countries had worried that with the rise of nationalism in many countries and the recent election of Jair Bolsonaro as Brazil's president, the international cooperation needed to tackle climate change might be in danger. For many, getting agreement here in Katowice was less about technical rules and more about showing that the international spirit is still alive and has teeth. I think the beauty of multilateralism is that it is the effort of everybody, said Spanish Ecology Minister Teresa Ribera. And what we have seen is that everybody has supported the package, no single country has decided to step down. It is very difficult. It is like organizing a party for 200 friends, and there's a single menu that everybody has to eat. It is not so easy, but we have got it. That's fantastic. 4. Actions speak louder than words. While negotiators have been congratulating themselves on a job well done in landing the rulebook, there are many voices here who feel that the agreement does not go far enough. They point to the strength of the science, and the public recognition of the impacts of climate change seen this year in heatwaves and wildfires, how years compare with the 20th century average. 2017. 10 warmest years. 10 coldest years. 20th century average. Hotter. Colder. Months. J. F. M. A. M. J. J. A. S. O. N. D. Source, NOAA. Replay. Many environmental campaigners believe that Katowice was a missed opportunity for radical action. We have ended up here with more of a coal trade fair than a climate convention, said Mohammed Adaw from Christian Aid, referring to the efforts to promote coal by Poland and the US at this conference. We haven't acted in good faith, particularly for the young, that we takes seriously what science is telling us and we are responding to it. That message didn't come through. If people think the rulebook is the way to get the world on that path, it is not robust or ambitious enough. 5. New voices are emerging. One of the most striking things about this conference of the parties was the presence of energized young people in far greater numbers than I have ever seen them at a COP before. Climate change chimes with young people in a way that is sometimes missing with older people, who make up the bulk of negotiators here. The sense that perhaps this UN process doesn't quite connect with the modern world was summed up best by Mohamed Nasheed, the former president of the Maldives and now their lead climate negotiator. Almost 10 years since I was last at these climate negotiations, I must say, nothing much seems to have changed. We are still using the same old, dinosaur language. Still saying the same old words. Still making the same tedious points. It would be hard to argue with this view given the shenanigans that played out at the end, when one country, Brazil, held up progress at the talks on one issue for a couple of days. Perhaps the most memorable image of this meeting was that of 15-year-old Swedish student Greta Thunberg. This young woman who has organized school strikes in Sweden held daily press conferences here to drive home her message that platitudes and warm words just aren't enough anymore. Her message was sharp and succinct. We cannot solve a crisis without treating it as a crisis.